the 49er inactives are out in no particular order. Quarterback Brandon Allen.
It's a shame.
Although he will serve as the number 3 emergency QB.
EQB.
Running back Ty Davis-Price.
Inactive.
Well, on his birthday.
That sucks.
Tackle Trent Williams. Wide receiver Bo Samuel. And then Khalil Davis, Jalen Graham, Braden Willis. That is your inactive list for the San Francisco 49ers. Wow. Christian McCaffrey officially is in.
And he's playing.
Oh, yes.
But he's not just going to be active and maybe play a little bit, because you wouldn't have had TDP inactive if Christian McCaffrey was going to be a game time maybe. You play him, he's active, he's going to start, he's going to get the ball a ton.
Well, he's going to get the ball, although listen to what Adam Schefter had to say on Pat McAfee this morning, because there is a scenario where he goes out there and he takes one carry and then goes, oh, that did not feel good at all. I'm out. And I know there are probably fantasy players who are terrified by that reality, but this is the situation. Let me read for you what Schefter said this morning, and I wonder if it might sort of help shape some of everyone's opinions about whether the Niners are doing the right thing or not. Listen to this. Schefter says the guy is unbelievable. He had a team of people working on him all week long, like therapists working on him around the clock. And he's going to be out there tonight. He's playing. The interesting part will be that he did not take a hit in practice all week long. So, is he going to play the whole game and be Christian McCaffrey, cyborg warrior, and unaffected? Could be. Does he get hit right away and feel it? Maybe. We'll see. But he's definitely playing. He'll be out there tonight. That's from Adam Schefter earlier this morning on Pat McAfee.
Yeah, and that's the way it's going to go when he's active, and you have the list of actives and inactives. And if he's going to be active, then he's going to play. And if he's going to play, as I detailed earlier in the week, when he's out on the field, he gets the ball about half the time. Based on his touches versus his snap count, he touches the ball about 45% of the plays where he's out there. So do you limit the number of plays he's out there? Do you limit his touches, or do you just go out there and you play him? I said all along, if you're going to play him, then you play him. You don't pussyfoot around it, and you don't try to half-step it. And, if he gets hurt or if he has pain that he can't tolerate, well, then you don't play him anymore. But you're down to 2 running backs if he doesn't go out there, because you only have 3 active right now.
Well, that's the other interesting thing. I do think, again, there are clues, that there are little breadcrumbs that get left for us. The fact that TDP is inactive would suggest not only that they're playing McCaffrey, but that they feel confident that he can make it through the game. It's not like you're dead if he has to come out. You do have 2 other running backs, and both of them have plenty of experience. But that said, the other thing that's popping into my mind, do you remember the conversation after the fact with regard to Brock Purdy in Seattle last year? As it turns out, we didn't know, but he had broken ribs, and he went out there and he played. And he played very well in the first half, and he made it through the entire game, and the 49ers won a big division matchup on a Thursday night on the road. That said, they admitted after the game, they're like, we were sending him out there, and we did not feel great about the fact that he'd make it through. We thought he could get us what he could get us in the first half, and so we figured let's take that, and then we'll go from there. It turns out he made it through the entire game, but their plan was simply to play him essentially for a half. I wonder if there's something similar going on here with Christian, where they're like, look, we'll take as much as we can from him. If he can help us get a 14-point lead in the second quarter, then great. Then we'll get him out of there. But I do think, look, it's fair, those of you who are saying this is scary, because if you do think back to last year, it's like Brock Purdy had broken ribs,
right?
And their answer was, put him out there. Now, granted, they were down to QB3. They needed to win. They did not have many other options. And Brock Purdy was not yet Brock Purdy. Like, he didn't have that glow around him yet. But, yeah, Kyle Shanahan and NFL teams will show you repeatedly that they will stick their guys out there, even if it puts them in harm's way.
But it's different now with McCaffrey in week 7 than it was with Brock Purdy, knowing that Josh Johnson was the only available backup and he had never played as a Niner. You got Christian McCaffrey, and if he's unable to go, well, you do have Jordan Mason, and you've got Eli Mitchell, who actually is RB2, who had a pretty good career before Christian McCaffrey even got here.
No
so you do have other options as opposed to Brock Purdy. When he was out there with a broken rib, you had Trey Lance already gone for the year, and Jimmy Garoppolo was out for basically the year in his career. So you didn't have that many options to go to after Brock.
Let's keep going with you at 888-957-9570 on whether or not you think the Niners are making a mistake. We got some Brock Purdy stuff for you as well, including some of it from Joe Buck, who was on with the Morning Roast today. We'll have that for you here shortly. Let's go to Rick in Bradford. Hey, Rick, you're on with Willard and Dibs. What you doing?
Hey, how you doing, man?
What's happening?
Think that the Niners are making a huge mistake. I know they're under pressure, being that they may end up seeing Philadelphia again, but they got 2 running backs that can hold it. Minnesota is not very good. They don't even have their best player in Jefferson. I think they just feeling a little pressure, and I think they just rushing CMC back like you said they did before, and they just avoided a 6-week injury.
Well, I do think this, Rick. I think, and appreciate it, I think that a lot of us in the outside world in football, we look at these football games and we go, Minnesota doesn't have Jefferson, and they're, what are they, 2-4? Is that their record?
Yep.
Okay.
All 6 games, 1-score games.
And that thought that goes through our mind, I legitimately don't think it goes through head coaches' minds. I don't think they go, Minnesota's not very good. We can win this. We don't need Christian. We got Eli Mitchell and Jordan Mason, and that's enough to beat Minnesota. I just don't think professionals look at it that way, because millions of dollars are being spent on the other sideline too. This is a team that went 13-4 last year. He has mad love for Kirk Cousins. How does that affect the game plan tonight? You don't think Kyle Shanahan thinks that Kirk Cousins has the capability of torching him for 30 points? He loves the guy.
Right.
He's in love with the guy, well documented. So I know we think that way, and we're allowed to. We're not on the team. But they don't think that way. So they're not assuming a victory over Minnesota tonight.
And you look at Minnesota's record and you see that they're 2-4, and you think a certain way about them because they're 2-4. But if you really look at Minnesota and the way their year has gone, they've lost nine fumbles this year. Oof. And they've turned the ball over 13 times. And those 13 turnovers have led to 37 opposition points. So you look at fumbles, and a lot of times when you fumble the ball, it becomes a 50-50 proposition in terms of who gets it. Brock Purdy's fumbled 2 or 3 times this year, and he's gotten every one of them back. So there's a certain amount of randomness that goes into just the act of fumbling the football. Minnesota's been very bad in terms of taking care of the ball. They've lost all 4 games by 1 score, and I know last year they were unbelievable in 1-score games, but this team is not as bad as their 2-4 record would indicate.
You are listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. I agree with you. I think that Minnesota last year was not as good as their record indicated.
Yeah.
I think this year they're not as bad as their record indicated. But this is the NFL, and so if I had to use a word to sort of describe the Minnesota Vikings, capable. I mean, absolutely capable. It's just funny to me. We get the same message every day, and then it erases. It's like being in the movie Men in Black. We watch Sunday, and then somebody holds up a little flashy thingy, and our mind goes blank, and we go, the Niners will beat the Vikings. This is stupid. Of course the Niners are going to beat the Vikings. No, the Patriots beat the Bills. The Jets beat the Eagles. The Browns beat the 49ers. The Ravens blew the doors off of the Detroit Lions. Yeah. I know the Ravens are good, but blew the Lions' doors off. Why do we continue to come back after these experiences and think that the good teams will just show up and roll? It doesn't ever work that way.
Right. Well, the difference between the best team and the 32nd best team in the NFL, and you look at Carolina, and you mentioned it earlier, Carolina's probably going to beat somebody. They're 0-6, and Carolina's going to play a good game, and they're going to catch somebody who is maybe not ready to play Carolina. Maybe they're overlooking the Panthers, and they're going to win a game. They might win more than one game.
Totally.
And you look at the worst teams in the NFL, and they're capable of beating anybody. New England's a great example. It's a team that we all basically wrote off, and I think it was you who said last week that Belichick is playing chess, not checkers, in terms of getting a quarterback for next year.
And he had a contract extension in his hip pocket, and we didn't even know it.
Right. So he gets a new contract, and instead of doubling down on the tank job, knowing that he's going to be here, they go out there and they played a great football game.
Jeez.
And they got to win despite the fact that they don't have a good quarterback. And that quarterback led them down the field on one of the AFC front runners to steal that victory.
Yeah, although the Buffalo Bills, perception versus reality. I think that the Bills right now, again, they've achieved some things. This is not me saying Josh Allen's not a great player, because he is.
Yeah.
But Josh Allen and Justin Herbert right now are the anti-Purdies. Okay? We do this. We're like, well, there's Mahomes, and then there's Allen, and there's Herbert.
And Burrow.
And you're like, they have a losing record, the Chargers. And the Bills are 4-3. But you cannot move yourself off of the idea that they're AFC contenders and they're, quote unquote, one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the game. Now, my eyes don't deceive me. Josh Allen's phenomenal. Justin Herbert is too. I see the stats. And I do think that the Bills suffer from, especially with their defensive injuries, they're like Josh Allen or bust. He has to be amazing. They don't have a whole lot else going for him right now. And the Chargers, Herbert is just working against the internal structure of that organization,
that whole system,
and their coaching. It is just absolutely awful. They're 2-4, and they're a breath away from being 0-6. It's insanity to get the production that they get from their quarterback in the NFL, and they still can't win football games. So that's incredibly wild. But this is kind of the opposite of the draftism that I've talked about with Brock Purdy. Justin Herbert and Josh Allen, they don't even need to go win a lot of games. And you refuse to move them down the list. Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. They're not winning football games right now in this month of October. Almost at all. The Bills have won one time, and the Chargers don't win. And we don't remove them. Yet there are other quarterbacks around the league, Purdy being one of them, Tua to a degree. They win football games. Jalen Hurts too. They win football games. We don't want to put them in that same kind of a conversation.
Yeah, it's because we're so used to it. And, we see Justin Herbert and the great arm talent and what we think that we have seen week in and week out. And then you look at him yesterday, and he threw 2 interceptions against Kansas City's defense is better. They're not elite. They're a much better defense. But, Justin Herbert and that offense, they had plenty of chances to stay in that game and make it more of a shootout, and then they just didn't. And Buffalo, that was more of a byproduct of their defense than it was Josh Allen, but he makes 1 or 2 of those mistakes each game where it's like, dude, it's like his rookie year all over again.
Yeah, no joke. So if you're just joining us, CMAC is officially in. Again, the reports have been out now for a number of days, but I wasn't 100% sure whether or not to believe it until I saw it, but we're here. Christian is active. Ty Davis Price is not. He is inactive, means the 49ers have some level of confidence that Christian McCaffrey is going to make it through the game tonight. So, you can certainly weigh in on whether or not the 49ers are making a mistake. He did not take any hits in practice all week. Schefter reports he had a team working with him physically round the clock just to get ready for this football game. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is, I think, and we won't know how much he's involved in the game plan, how much he gets in the way of carries, but this does set up such an interesting sort of circumstance for both Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy, because in many ways, without asking for it, this is what everyone's been asking for. If you're going to call him a system quarterback, or if you're going to say he is a product of his surroundings, well, you get your chance to take a look. This is going to be Brock Purdy without his left tackle. This is Brock Purdy without his Debo third down security blanket. And yes, Christian will be in, but how much? We don't know. The other side to it being a system, well, if the system is so great, you should be able to scheme everyone open. So Ronnie Bell and Jawan Jennings, they should have no problem getting open as well. This is a big game for those two guys where you've got the whole nation to yourself, primetime, Monday night football game, and with all the discussion that's gone on for 6 weeks about how much of it is the system and how much of it are the teammates, we get to take a look at Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan go out there very, very far from full strength and see what they can do.
Yeah, for me, this is much more of a Brock game than it is for Kyle because if you're Kyle, you can scheme it up only so much in terms of what you already have from a personnel standpoint. You're still going to play Kyle Juszczyk in 65% of the snaps, which means you're going to have two running backs, or at least you're going to put Juszczyk up in the H-back or the tight end spot, and you're going to use McCaffrey or Mason or Mitchell. I think that this comes down to become more of a Brock Purdy game because of what the Vikings will try to do. The Giants, we know, blitzed him 80% of the times, or it was a record number of times that they blitzed him. And if you look at Minnesota in the advanced numbers, they're at 58%
That's a
blitz.
Lot. That's a lot.
The next highest is 36.
Yep.
So they are far and away the most blitz-happy team in the NFL.
So what you're saying is the New York Giants came in and set a record this season for the most blitzes, at least in terms of a percentage, by any team all year long.
Right.
But the Vikings are the ones who do that, blitzing more than half the time.
On the
regular.
Correct.
Now, what's fascinating is that the Vikings don't necessarily do things in a normal way when they're blitzing, though. Like often, like their defensive backs, I think they lack some confidence in their defensive backs.
Absolutely.
And so here's what I would look for tonight in terms of a matchup. This is why I actually have a lot of confidence in what Brock is going to do tonight. We all know, what does Brock do well?
Gets
Brock
the ball out.
and reads the dang defense.
And that's against the Giants. That's where he was able to make a lot happen because he got it out quick.
Right, but the Giants are also much more aggressive in the defensive backfield, kind of pairing that with the blitz, as opposed to what the Vikings do, which is a little bit more saggy.
Yeah.
And so if Brock is able to read where the pressure is coming from, find his hot routes that are going to be open, short passing game, like someone like Ronnie Bell could be a really interesting player tonight. Ray McLeod too, because I think that stuff is going to be open with quick deliveries. So if you can process quick, if you can make that decision quick and then deliver with accuracy, and I just said the three things that Brock does the best, if you do that well tonight, I think you're going to still have a lot of success on offense, even without your left tackle and without Debo Sanders.
I agree with you on the surface, but then you're relying on Ray and Ronnie Bell to do Debo Samuel type things, which is where in a game like this is where you miss Debo the most, because if you can hot route it and quick throw to Debo, the way he squares up and runs at people and over people, I'm not sure if Ray and Ronnie have that same ability or if they're going to be able to do the same sort of thing. I'm looking for George Kittle to have himself a bit of a game, not only because I have him in fantasy and I need 16 plus.
Let's be honest.
Keep
it real, Dibs.
I will keep it real. That's definitely a part of it. But also, I think about it in terms of, the quick throws to the tight end. If you're going to go hot route and Ayuk is taken away theoretically, would you rather go to Ray or Ronnie, or would you rather go to Christian and George on tight end day?
Why'd you have to leave out Juwan? What if it's third down? I'm going to Juwan. Third and Juwan.
What's he got, 7 catches this year?
I don't know. I'm going to have a few more tonight.
He might, yeah.
You know what? It's funny when you sit here and start to say all of this out loud. It's like the Niners have plenty of weapons tonight. They're down one weapon, unless Christian can't make it through the game.
Right.
And granted, he's a big, big weapon, but I'm not bothered when the Niners are down one weapon. They played without Brandon Ayuk. They did fine. They scored the same number of points. They basically played one game where Debo was nothing more than he was a decoy. They did fine. They scored 30 points again. So tonight they're down Debo. They can function, especially if Christian is fine and he's able to make it through the game. I think they can function. just fine. And I do think this matchup has some good slots for them in terms of the way that the Vikings play defense.